Namaste everyone. In today's video, we're going to focus on Muni Patanjali's Yoga Sutra 4.3. Now in this particular Yoga Sutra, Muni Patanjali is helping us to understand how exactly a Yoga Sadhak is able to transform the Prakritic process in order to create these Nirmana Kayas or Nirmana Chittas, which seem to be facilitating the Karma Sanskaras of that particular Yoga Sadhak. So let's take a good look at the sutra, start breaking it up word by word and understanding how exactly this is possible and how the Yoga Sadhak does it. So the sutra itself goes, Nimittam prayojakam prakritinam varana bhedastu tataf kshetriya kavat. Alright, so this is the sutra itself. Now let's start breaking it up word by word to understand the meanings and then go even deeper into the sutra itself. So the first word here is nimit, and nimit means a particular cause of something. So what is being caused is usually known as nimit, as the causal factor, and it can be an immediate one or an incidental one, but either way that's referred to as nimit. And interestingly also, Nimit is a very common Indian name. A lot of boys or men have the name Nimit. Anyway, so coming to the next word, we have Aprayojakam. So Aprayojakam is a very important word. It essentially indicates that Aprayoja, so A means non, pra and yojaka means intensive, so intense stimulation. So we're saying non-intense stimulation. So this is not the intensity, this is not the stimulating factor that is being considered. So that is aprayojakam. Then coming to the next word, we have Prakriti. Prakriti is talking about, of course, the natural process, nature, Prakriti, which is the element part of the Sankhya theory. And then coming to the next word, which is Varana. Now Varana here is referring to a lump of earth. This lump of earth is used sometimes by farmers to make sure that water flows in a particular channel. So they kind of mold and put a lump of earth in that area to guide the water to go in a particular direction. Alright, so that is Varana, that lump of earth. Then comes the next word, which is Bheda. Now, Bhed refers to the removal of, and basically it's talking about the removal happening in this particular case, a particular breakthrough or a particular pathway. So that is Bhed. And then coming to the next word, we have Tu, which means indeed, right? So it's like, it's explaining the concept to us, saying Tu or indeed. And then going even deeper down, we have the next word, which is Tataha, which is saying from that. So now it's connecting all these words together and taking us along the journey of the idea and saying from that. And then coming to the next word, there is Kshetrika, which means a farmer. Okay, so this is not a very common word for a farmer. Usually in the Hindi language we say kisan, but in this particular case it's being used because kshetra means an area. So kshetrika refers to a farmer or the person that's in charge of a particular area. And then finally the last word is vat, right, which is the same as or like. Alright, so these are all the words individually. Now let's start understanding what is the sutra trying to communicate and what is it trying to tell us. So the sutra is saying that it is not the yogi's desire that is the stimulating factor in this case, right? It's not just the desire of the yogi that kind of stimulates Prakriti to act this way, but instead it is the transformation and the usage of particular laws of Prakriti that the Yoga Sadhak knows about and uses to his or her advantage to then, derive certain results, just as a farmer uses a lump of earth to guide the water to go a particular way. So he's not violating any laws of nature or doing anything that's miraculous. He is literally just channelizing the movement of water in a particular direction. And so that's also similar to what the Yog Sadhak is doing, using, transforming certain laws of Prakriti, working within them to create this desired outcome of a particular Nirmana Kaya or Nirmana Chitta, which is going to use up the yogi's karmashaya, karmic sanskaras, and allow him or her to move over to the next absolute realm. So this is the overall meaning of the sutra, but let's dive deeper into this karma siddhanta, into these theories, to understand what exactly is going on. Alright, so looking at the previous sutra and looking at this sutra, some of us might be wondering, well, isn't this like a little bit of a selfish gain or motive or usage of a particular standard of Prakriti? Well, the answer to that is that it's not something that is being done outside the realms of Prakriti. It's using the Prakritic laws of nature and thereby guiding the certain flow of the Chitta in a certain way through a particular channel. Now, here's the issue, right? When we look at, say, for example, an amazing cook, and this is the example again provided in our source book. So this particular cook now is essentially creating something, a particular dish. So she's bringing a lot of different ingredients together and creating something fantastic. But she's able to do that because she knows the qualities, properties of each of the ingredients. She brings it together and it almost feels like a different product. But another person who might attempt to make the same thing, it might not taste exactly the same. It will have a few differences. And so because of this inherent sort of ability of that cook to do something, it seems miraculous, right? Wow, she makes this every time, it tastes so amazing. It's almost miraculous. But usually it's just that the person understands very deeply and has great culinary skills and therefore is able to execute that miracle by bringing all these ingredients together and making it taste a particular way. Same goes for anybody who knows their craft inside out. To us normal people, seems like a miracle, right? Like dancers, ice skaters, people who are literally twirling in the air on their ice skates. It looks like a miracle to us because we don't know the mechanisms at play. We don't understand how and what kind of practice it requires to do that, right? So it seems almost fantastical to us. But in the same way, the yogi in this case knows his or her intuitive realm really well. He or she understands now the realm of Prakriti super well and knows how to use certain Prakritic elements because all of them have now come under his or her control. And so he or she is able to kind of mix and match, do certain movements with the laws and, kind of conduct whatever the task is needed in this particular case. So this is something really important to think about because it's very difficult to imagine how something like this would be possible, but a Yog Sadhak at this stage of Kaivalya is able to do even that. And here he or she is not manipulating any forces of nature, but is instead redirecting them and guiding them in a particular way. So essentially what happens is there's so many bodies constantly being created through the process of reproduction at any given moment, whether human or from any other species. So these bodies are constantly being created, but before the life form or the chitta emerges in those bodies, right? Now this is really, really important. Let's pay attention to this part. The karmashaya, the karmic tendencies, and the understanding of what the previous life was, what this life needs to be, all of that karmashaya element fits within the chitta. And so that is under the realm of Prakriti. It's not part of the Purusha because the Purusha is immovable, cannot change, cannot move. Instead, it is part of the chitta, of the consciousness, right? And therefore, before that chitta arrives into a newly formed Prakritic body, that body is devoid of any karmas, is devoid of any karmashaya or any chitta. This is a very small time period, okay, where the body has been formed, but there is no chitta attached to it as yet. And it is in this gap that the Yog Sadhak kind of inserts his or her own chitta, part of the karmashaya that they would like to exhaust, assigns that to this body which has been created but not been claimed by any chitta or any karmashaya as yet. And then through that, the leftover karmas or tendencies of that yog sadhak now get used up. But here's a very, very important thing. Those karmas which are now being used up are not meant to produce more karmic reactions. They're meant to be literally karmas in the karma yoga sense, which have no reaction, no sanskaras. They're not done for a desire of fruit or gain. Instead, they're done to exhaust certain karmas. And so because they're done with that purpose, they do not bring in a fruit once again. They just get done, exhausted, and that's it. Done and dusted with that particular karmic sanskara that was left over. So this is very important, right? Because imagine if the yog sadhak assigns the karmashaya or the chitta consciousness to a particular prakritic element, and then that organism conducts the karma, but instead of it being done in a selfless way, that karma picks up again. The whole system goes for a toss, because you started it to get rid of your karma, but now there's more karma being collected because it's not being done without desiring the fruit of the karma, right? So whatever this action that this organism now does needs to be done in a way of not wanting anything in return. It has to be done from a place of selflessness, of real karma yoga, not being attached to the gain of those actions. And when that is done, finally the karmic tendencies get used up, the sanskaras are used up, and the organism in time will pass away, and the yogi will also pass on into the absolute realm, because all the karmas have been used up. There's nothing left of the karmashaya, there's no sanskaras left. It's just the purusha now. The prakriti has been completely exhausted in the case of that yog sadhak. Right? So when I say prakriti has been completely exhausted, I particularly mean the karmashaya and the chitta. Right? So everything has been used up, and now it's free to kind of move to the absolute realm. So this is a very, very important concept. I would say one of the most important sutras in the entire text. If you understand this, you've got it. You're going to understand pretty much the entire book so far. All right? So very important. But I'll end it with saying that the example of the farmer was given on purpose because it would be easier for people to understand this. Because farmers do this all the time, right? Water flows from high pressure to low pressure. And if you wanted to go in a particular bed, especially if you wanted to flow from low to high, to direct that channel and make it go like that, you have to use lumps of earth, kind of pack them up in certain places, so then the water begins to flow along those channels. So does that mean you're changing the bed entirely? You're changing the constituent of water? No. All you're doing is rechannelizing it, retransforming it, and that's exactly what the yog sadhak is doing as well. So instead of the yog sadhak conducting those karmic tendencies himself or herself, which will take many lifetimes, just redirecting those karma sanskaras to an empty available body so that those sanskaras can be used up and it can be conducted and finished off. So we have to remember that this happens before another chitta has claimed that particular body. It does not happen after. It happens at that gap where there's an empty new body formed of a human or any other species, and before the chitta or a new karmashaya has attached to it. Alright, so I hope this concept was easy to understand. It is quite heavy, it's quite packed. You may need to rewatch this video to understand what it's trying to communicate, but ultimately this is what the sutra is talking about. So I hope you've been able to understand the Sutra 4.3, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section below, and also don't forget to share this video with your friends and family, especially those interested in karma, karmic theories, yoga philosophy, and the Yoga Sutras. Apart from that, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we release new videos every single week. Now, we cannot wait to see you in the next video or in our next class, course or workshop, the links for which are in the description. Until then, take care, keep practicing, and we're going to see you in the next one. Namaste.